if you are someone that prides yourself on resilience, but secretly keep moving towards burnout, then this is for you. What I'm going to talk about in this beautifully designed way is take you on a bit of a journey of why resilience might actually be the thing that's blocking you as opposed to your power. My name's Jackson Gotti, and I work with really high-level leaders, therapists, coaches, and those that have done a lot of inner work on themselves, but still find themselves maybe out of alignment, maybe looking to seek further integration, and then continuously trying to refine who they are and how they do what they do. So I'm going to take you through what I believe resistance to be when it comes to maybe not so much as a strength as people might think that it is. Got to start to look at where did resilience come from? When we're looking at resilience, it's generally built from adversity. It's without adversity that we actually don't see resilience come through. So that in its sense is being able to look at resilience as this proud, this thing that we have that we wouldn't be able to have if it wasn't because of our adversity. A lot of my clients that have been through quite a lot of adversity, I work with a lot of complex trauma, that they would choose to not be resilient if it meant they didn't have to have the adversity. So the origin of resilience is built on the ability of suffering, the ability of something not going so well for us. So we can make sense of it as we age and as we grow and as we become more and more of who we are and do the work that we then do. The resilience is something to be proud of. And I totally get that, except when it starts to push towards burnout. So I want to look at resilience as this beautifully drawn shield. If resilience is a shield, then we're proud of that shield that we hold. That we will take a lot of power in the ability to make sure that we have that shield there. Because essentially it protects us. It allows us to get things done. I've written grit here because without that shield and being able to push forward, then we don't have anything to rub up against that might lead us with protection and safety. So the shield goes against the life, goes against the next object, the next task, the thing that we want to overcome in a way that there's resistance. Now I'm going to come back to resistance later and look at how resistance really is a big part of this problem. But when we have a shield, everything's about action. Is how do I want to move with this shield? How do we step forward? How do we never give up? So you might be someone that has an attitude that is built around pride, grit, and action, meaning that you don't take no as an answer. You don't give up. You don't stop. You keep trying to make sure that you can do what it takes to achieve, to succeed, to grow, to move forward, to overcome. And we use resilience, we use that shield. So you can see where there's this idea of it being very, very powerful. But a shield is literally a block. Right? A shield is a block. It blocks and protects me from what's in front of me. What happens when we remove the shield? This is what was going on for my clients, is I told him that you need to let down the shield. And that overwhelmed him, right? Because naturally he's always held it. It's actually been one of the only things that he's used. Use that action, use that doing in order to get him through. So when I asked him to put down the shield, that's how we're going to find our way home. That's how we're going to work through and regain our power, is the sense of that immediately would take away power and therefore leave him powerless. Another thing I'm foreboding that we'll get to around powerlessness. All we come to is that identity is built around the doer. Now, if you're a doer, we're moving forward. We're productive. We're actioning tasks. We're doing what it takes to make sure that we can get to our next point. The idea of not doing is therefore seen as the enemy. What happens when you don't do and instead just be? Well, maybe this is you. Maybe when you stop, that you think that that's not good enough. That's not helping you move towards completion, success, achievement. So underneath the doer, the identity of this doer, we go down underneath the surface into the shadows. We meet shame. And shame is a very big emotion that I talk a lot about, that has more power than any other emotion because of what it can do, because of the power that it can have over us. So if the doer has shame around not doing or stopping, that when I stop, this is not okay. This is bad. You are wrong. You are not getting it. Then everything will fall apart. You can see how shame has a lot of power. Not resilience, not this shield. It's the reason we're holding up the shield. We thought it because maybe we can move forward and get some shit done. Get the next thing, help the next client, take on the next task. When really, it's what we're really scared of is when we don't step forward, when we don't take another step, then that we have to stop. And what happens when I stop? I get scared. So if I'm someone that's built around resilience, I don't want to get into shame and I don't want to get into fear. So I'll do whatever it takes. I will resist doing whatever it takes to not have fear and not have shame. So I'm going to make sure the only equation therefore is to do. Because unless you're doing, it's not enough. Shame is in its manifestation, I am not good enough. I don't matter. I am inadequate. Whatever that core belief message might be, you can see some of my other videos where we tackle core beliefs. It's a big concept that really takes us through what shame looks like in its physical form. It's that core belief message. Mine is, I'm unlovable. That's a distorted old belief that I shame myself with when I say it to myself. That happens when I'm triggered. But coming back to this, if I have shame around stopping and not doing, then I'll do whatever it takes to not let shame happen. Because then the belief will be true that I'm not good enough, that I don't matter, that I'm inadequate. The fear, what I'm afraid of, then is being still. When I ask my client to let down the shield and not do, it crumbles the identity of the doer. It breaks him down into a place that he doesn't like going, deep into the darkness, deep into the shadow, which is shame and fear, stillness, stopping, not doing. But it's down there that the only way that I'll ever be able to absolutely let go of the shield and be led with presence and be able to take on the world with clarity without this idea of being so burnt out is I face the music, which isn't in front of me, it's behind me. Resilience came from adversity. So where did I learn that it wasn't okay to not do anything? What happened to me when stillness was around? So we can go back in some experiences, but generally we go back to earlier experiences. Is what we were modeled. To be able to be successful is to keep going, is to never give up. If that was ingrained in me, then stillness is scary because it means I'm getting closer to maybe not being able to achieve. I believe that all work comes back down to how long I can take before I realize what it is that I'm resisting. Shame is literally resistance. Resilience in the shield is literally resistance. I want to push up against something in order to protect myself. So resistance is, what am I resisting? What am I protecting myself from? That I need a shield. Again, it's the doer. So how do we move away from this? The path that we're describing is powerlessness. Now, how do I deal with powerlessness if I keep holding the shield of resilience? Don't let go of the shield. But if I want to overcome my ability to be not ashamed by everything that's going on around me, to not be so afraid of not doing, the only way to alleviate this burnout, to alleviate this need and desire to keep going, which is taking away from my ability to show up in my relationships. It's taking away the ability for me to stay calm and regulated in my nervous system. It's creating conflict internally and externally. I can't hold it all together. The shield has cracks. Things will start to break down. Our first step towards the solution is admitting that we are powerless and that our life actually becomes unmanageable the more we have pride, the more we push against with grit, and the more we keep actioning and trying to use resilience as our powerful force to move and do. Can we admit that we're powerless to the idea of shame? The fight against shame, that I'm powerless to my shame. It's a big thing to ask, and it was a big thing to go through and experience for my clients. But each step towards creating the awareness, the acute awareness of, oh, wow, this has some power over me. Resilience actually has power over me. My burnout is a consequence of me not wanting to do it any other way but with the shield. Resistance. So, the first next step up is, in order to be able to move through powerlessness, we must come down to our knees with humility and surrender. That is no easy task. In 2 days' time, I'll be going on a silent meditation retreat to literally surrender, because my shit is built around powerlessness. Is if I don't help, fix, do, that I will be out of control. If I don't control, then I might not get my needs met. I might not get seen, heard, loved, whatever it might be. So I keep coming back down to my knees in different levels of the work that I've done on myself in the last 10 years of therapy. Is that this is all about powerlessness. So for me, the ultimate powerlessness is going to be shutting the fuck up in a silent meditation retreat, meditating for such a long period of time, not being able to control, having to sit in stillness, sit in the discomfort and watch resistance just bubble inside me, right? Now you don't need to do anything that radical maybe. This is, like I said, I've done a lot of work on myself, and this is a big jump into absolute surrender. But surrender might just be what I ask my client: can you for the rest of the day sit and do nothing and allow it to be okay? Surrender is no easy task, and when you've done a lot of work or you've got a lot of trauma, surrender potentially is linked to failure. It's linked to the lack of something. It's linked to shame. That this will mean I'm unworthy, that I don't matter as a person. It's a big thing to come up against. So stay with me so I tell you what we need to do in that surrender. Because if we surrender down and then beat the shit out of ourselves whilst our knees are surrendering, it's not a safe place to be. So we have to allow and give permission to the shield being let down, but all the resistance to not wanting to do that. Because there's a part that's at play. I do a lot of parts work. Essentially, there's a reason we adapted to pick up the shield. So the protector, the part that's at play, is the doer. So if I say surrender and no longer do, he's going to have a really hard time doing that. So what, as a functional adult, as a parent to this part of me, need to allow, need to hold in order for him to go through the motions of what it's going to be like to have that fear. So this is where we go, it must be so hard to be there. It must be so easy to want to just quickly get up and do again and pick up the shield. Can I be with that with compassion? Can I be with that with acknowledgement? Can I give myself permission to know that doing something like that is going to be so hard? The first hour of me not being able to speak and sitting in meditation, I will meet resistance almost immediately. And I will go, oh shit, I don't want to be here. So then what do I say? Do I shame myself? Do I let fear override me and win? Do I go back into grit and pride myself on I can sit here and meditate all day? No. I know the answer to that. I will burn out again. I will end up back at the same silent retreat saying, I'm ready to surrender now. I wasn't willing to accept. And I'm powerless to this stuff. This is big, complex work for people that have done a lot of work on themselves to even get to the point where their nervous system's in a position where they understand the different parts of them, their wounded child, their adaptations, parts that we had to be in order to keep ourselves straight, the shield that we took in order to move. Be able to have deep love and compassion for that part of me that of course wants a shield, that of course needs to be strong, that fights against stopping, that fights against stillness. Surrendering to that, we need a lot of love for self. And in that stillness, in that discomfort, we then see what's possible. This is where we move from what we can then see. What's possible is that rest, wild concept to the doer, rest can be our power. Not our block, not our shame, not our fear, our power. When I take rest and find stillness, this is where I find true effortlessness, true exhales, true presence. And who do I meet when I'm there? And all the shield and all the protectors and all of the resistance that's there. And how do I meet them and allow them to be there? The parts of me that will show up as soon as I take some stillness, as soon as I find some rest. But what's possible is then realizing that that's where the power comes from. This is where true growth can then rise. What if we thrived in the stillness? What if we became so aligned because of our effortlessness in a life that's filled with effort, that the practice of effortlessness allows for the deepest integration. It allows for the deepest level of alignment to then move forward by not moving at all. The shield is looking for one step forward. What if your next step is the step to choose to stay and be with the part of me that is terrified of that? Find a way to be more comfortable with being uncomfortable. In this place, in the future, what I see when people get to there and they have to, as I said, there's levels to this, come back to that place. Come back to their devotional practice of rest, of stillness, of effortlessness. And then from there, they can see what's possible. They can see the mud has cleared. They're able to move how they want to. There's more freedom, there's more peace. And in that place, there's very little room for burnout. There's very little room for confusion. There's very little room to need to defend and protect ourselves, because we have a deep knowing, an acute awareness, and a genuine compassion for ourselves, where our worth isn't in question. And every time it is, we find our way back to rest. We find our power in that stillness. Whatever that might look like for you, it's how can you implement it in your life? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day. And respect of how much power it actually holds in there. This is what we need to do, and this is the way. If this is something that resonates with you, then I have a self-led leadership scorecard where you can see where you're at in terms of alignment, your integration, and your refinement. If you want to have a deep dive conversation with me, we do this in our Find Your Worth model. Get acutely aware, get really, really clear on devotional nurture to ourselves, and be able to have absolute accountability so that we can walk this path to freedom and have this possibility on an 8-week intensive program. I hope to see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.